Hello, I want to give you a method that you can use to get you started on your journey to improvisation. I believe that just about any guitarist can use this method, and every guitarist will probably use it a little bit differently, but I've got some different steps that will take you through a bit of a journey, and you can take it as you like from there. So let's have a look. So what we're going to do here is something that's very characteristic of the guitar. We're going to play a melody. So we're going to play a C to begin, step one, melody on one string, C on the second string, and a pedal note on the other. A pedal note's just like a repeating note. So we're going to play the C and then the E. You can just do this at your own pace, or if you want to get a nice beat going, 2, 3, 4, like that. I am using my thumb for the second string for the C and index for the E, so you can use the same things if you like. So that's step one. You can speed up, slow down, do different dynamics. That's a form of improvisation. Improvisation was actually used by composers like Bach, Mozart, Beethoven. It was just a very common part of playing an instrument back in the day, but for whatever reason, now it's very uncommon in classical training. So sometimes just with a starting point like that, you might find yourself going into some new directions. But let's look at step 2 now. So this is, obviously just one note, so we need to add a little bit more variety. But when you start adding variety, sometimes you might find your improvisations wander a little bit, or a bit roaming around a little bit. So I have some techniques for you that can help provide structure to your improvisation. So the first one is to develop a motive. So a motive is like a repeating idea that recurs through a melody or a composition. So here we have a motive where now the note goes down from C and back up. And then we're going to just repeat that motive. So we go up to D, down to C and back. Repeat. Okay. Now if you like, you can take this idea and run with it. So you could go and then put that motive somewhere else, like lower, if you want. And then something like that, for example. So try to start with a motive. Once you find a motive you like, you can play around with it, repeat it higher or lower, try different things like that, and you'll find that structure will start to arise in your improvisation. Step 3 adds further structure through the use of something called a parallel period. And a parallel period is the most common type of phrase structure in Western music. You see it in music from right back from the Renaissance period all the way up to the Beatles and current music today. So a parallel period is where you have a question and an answer. They're usually the same length, usually 4 bars each, 4 plus 4, and they will usually start with this they'll repeat the material of each other at the beginning. So the start of the question is repeated at the start of the answer. So that's what we have here. We have a parallel period. You can see the first 2 bars of the question here are repeated in the first 2 bars of the answer. They end differently. The tricky thing about this is that you have to try and remember what you did back here. If you're improvising, you have to remember what you did back there when you do the answer. So maybe try to keep it nice and simple. But I think it's a really important skill to be able to improvise a parallel period, because it's such a foundational type of phrase structure. It'll be very, very helpful in your improvising and composition. So here is a parallel period. Answer. Okay, so have a go at that and just try to do your best. Even if your answer is not exactly the same as the question for the first 2 bars, that's totally fine. Even if you just do a little bit that sounds similar to the question, you're on the right track. The last one, step 4, this one is a little bit more advanced. So far we've been playing in one key, which is the key of C major. And you don't even necessarily need to know that. Your ears probably tell you that you're in a certain key, and if you play a note outside of the key, your ears will kind of pick up on that, and it won't quite fit right. So step 4 is where you actually will change key intentionally. And the way you can do this with a melody is by adding or using a defining note of another key. So in the key of A minor, when the G goes to a G sharp, that's a really defining note because it's called the leading tone. It's the 7th note of A minor, and it pulls you up to the tonic. Sorry, the leading tone pulls you up to the tonic. So the G sharp pulls you up to the A. And that creates a sense of being in a new key. So let's have a listen. So we're in C major to begin. And then we end in A minor. That G sharp's almost like a gateway note that just takes us to a new key. It's really nice when you have major and minor in the same melody because you get a bit of light and shade. So if you're a little bit more adventurous and advanced, you might want to have a go at modulating melody. If you're a little bit more shy and hesitant, nothing wrong with starting with step 1. The real aim of the game is just to give it a go. So once you start improvising and you get into the habit of it, that's where a lot of ideas will start to flow out. And you'll be surprised if you're playing pieces of music, it's like information being encoded into your fingers. And when you start improvising, some of that information comes out and results in absolutely exquisite improvisations, even if you've never tried it before. I've seen it again and again. So hope you enjoy that method and see where it takes you.